Consider yourself warned. This is a very different episode from what you're used to hearing on What's the Juice, and honestly, I'm ready for it. I am ready to come out of the spiritual closet and share with you guys the spiritual practitioners and healers that I actually work with in my real life. I was just joking with my husband this afternoon, good old Nicholas. I was asking him if he thinks people would be surprised by how many spiritual advisors I consult with on a yearly basis, and he said absolutely, because it's actually not a part of my life that I share all that often, but it is actually a huge part of my world, a huge part of the way that I make decisions, a huge part of the way that I run my business and like go deeper into my understanding of myself and my purpose and the world around me. This episode is kind of introducing you to someone who I've actually worked with in real life to go deeper into my spiritual path. If you are someone who is at a crossroads in life, if you're really feeling lost and you're being drawn towards some sort of spiritual practice or methodology of getting closer to some of the answers that you're looking for, I encourage you to be really open-minded to this episode. Let's say you're someone who is looking for a full-on like come to Jesus moment. Like you are just at a point in your life where you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know who I am. I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what step I need to take next. I just feel totally disconnected from myself. This is kind of the point that a lot of us get to, right? It's part of the human journey. A lot of us get to this point. And nowadays, in our current climate and culture, we might go to something like ayahuasca to receive these answers and have more clarity on our path. We might like look to actual psychedelic plant medicine. But what if you could do the soul searching without the trip by reconnecting with nature through a different lineage that doesn't involve plant medicine? That is exactly what we are talking about today. There is an ancient practice. It is West African in lineage. It is called stick divination, and it is essentially a reading that you receive from someone. And you leave that reading not with like your future told, not with a bunch of tarot cards read, but with assignments, rituals that you need to go out into nature and do in the next like 2 or 3 weeks that will ground you, realign you with the elements, with your own soul's voice, with your ancestors, and open a way. That's what Kat says, our guest today. Open a way for you to see a new path forward. This is one of the most interesting things that anyone ever told me about. And when I heard about this, I absolutely had to go have a session with Kat. And you'll hear about my experience in this episode. I showed up and I thought I was gonna get concrete answers from her that day, but actually I was left with work that I needed to do within myself to go outside and reconnect with nature so that those answers could come through me. And I would say it was even more effective than someone just like spelling out the answers for me. It actually helped me to have more of a relationship with myself and the elements of nature around me so that I could get better at hearing my own internal guidance. And that is exactly the point of this beautiful spiritual tradition and lineage. You're gonna hear Kat explain this methodology, this practice, exactly like this. As you're completing your rituals, whether that's throwing milk and honey into the ocean with a prayer or screaming your anger into an actual hole in the dirt that you've dug in the woods to give your anger back to the earth, as you're completing these rituals, you're quieting your mind. You're clearing your channel. You're giving things back to the spirits of nature that are meant to hold them much better than you can. And by quieting yourself and realigning yourself with these beautiful elements of water and earth and dirt and fire all around us, you're able to finally hear the guidance, not only of your soul and your ancestors, but of the living spirits of the earth. This is kind of a lineage that believes that nature is alive just like we are, just like plants are, just like animals are. And if we can just learn to connect with those elements, we can connect with ourselves in a whole new way. And if we can observe those elements, we can learn lessons about ourselves that we didn't quite think of because we are nature. I think we've all experienced the power of ritual and how it can center us and create a path for something in small ways. For example, setting the table before a meal creates this like space and intention that allows for a deeper conversation at the table, or just more relaxation and love between the people who are eating. Doing our nightly skincare routine calms and grounds us and connects us to ourselves in a way where we feel just a little bit more nurtured and loved and can maybe be more compassionate to ourselves. But this is a whole new level of interacting with ritual in a way that dates way back to our ancestors and ancient cultures. I think Kat can explain it much better than I can. She's gonna explain exactly what this way opening medicine is, how it can bring you closer to yourself without you having to ingest a single psychedelic. And she's gonna give a ton of examples of rituals that came through her and were assigned to her clients that are absolutely touching and mind-blowing and will make you cry and will just open your mind to all of the possibilities that exist when you're willing to get out there, do something different, and kind of like offer yourself and your presence to the earth. I hope you enjoy this. I hope this piques your interest and maybe teaches you something new. And if you do enjoy it, I will bring some more of my spiritual practitioners on the show in the future. Have fun. See you next week. Okay. Are you ready?
We feel each other's emotions.
It's everything. It's living my life intentionally.
That's the message, right?
Absolutely. There's no difference between our mental health and our physical health. It's the same exact thing.
And without further ado, let's get juicy. Katherine.
Hello.
Hello. Please reintroduce yourself. How would you describe yourself these days?
Yeah. Okay. So,
because you've been on the show before. We did a season 1 moment.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you were a little more tame back then.
Oh, thank you for noticing.
She's a wild woman now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've evolved.
Yes.
Yeah. So I really refer to myself now as a psychedelic guide and an initiated medicine woman, which basically means that I hold medicine in both the psychedelic, shamanic, and spiritual realms.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So the medicine that you have been working with people around most frequently, if I'm not mistaken, is divination.
Yes.
So I 2 or 3 years ago, might have been 3 years ago now at this point,
I think so.
did a divination reading with you.
Yes.
And I had no idea what to expect. And I got this email from you and you were like, talk to a quarter and go bury it and write down like these intentions in a notebook of like things that you want to receive answers about. And I almost thought I was going to show up to like a psychic reading.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were going to be like, okay, based on the intentions that you wrote, like, let me just see what's coming through. And I've had many psychic readings and I very much quote believe in them. I don't think there's anything to believe in when you work with an intuitive who's talented. It's like, it's undeniable. But that is not at all what this session was.
No.
You ended up working with these elemental items in front of you that you're going to walk us through and using a stick to bang on the ground and receive these like channeled messages. And I left that reading with rituals that I had to go do on like a mountainside. And I was like, okay, I'm down. And I have a video of me in front of Nobu, Malibu at the ocean, pouring milk, honey, and flowers into the ocean, like praying. And everyone at Nobu is just like, who is this crazy woman? And now 3 years later, I will say the rituals that you gave me and the reasonings as to why I had to do them have now unfolded in my life. And I do feel they helped me to open doors to change my path.
Beautiful.
So let's talk about it.
Let's do it. So I want to start with what you ended on, which is that this is a way opening medicine. Now, it is a style of divination that most people are not familiar with. It originates in West Africa of the Dagra people. So some people know about Malidoma Somé, who's kind of this, he's no longer with us, but a figurehead of this lineage. Now, I kind of want to begin with a little bit of definition around what divination is. For most people, like the most common form of engaging with it is tarot, right? So divination really means it's a medium of translation that helps people tap into information, messages, spirits, ancestors on the other side. So in this particular tradition, it's West African. It is a purely shamanic lineage, which means that it is rooted in the natural world. So I work with the intelligence, the aliveness of nature, as well as the ancestral spirits. And of course, there's some other groups of spirits in there, but kind of that's the easiest way to define who I talk to. And believe you me, there's so many different spirits that everyone taps into, right? Some psychics channel angelic guides.
Ancestors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I like about this particular tradition is that it is so rooted in the earth. And that to me, like, we're going to talk a lot about this, I know, because when it comes to nature, reconnecting and harmonizing ourselves with the medicine, the intelligence, the aliveness of nature is, I think, the healing and the medicine that we need in the West to come back into alignment. So to kind of go back to like, what happens when you sit with me and I'm banging my stick?
Yeah.
Like,
it's like the most rudimentary way I could have
Yes.
explained it, but it,
Yes.
you know, to the layperson, that's what it looks and feels like. So it's,
totally.
I want you to walk us through.
Yeah. So let's talk about the technology then. So a lot of people, when they sit with me, what they don't see is this pile of like what I call forest debris, right? It's sticks, it's stones, it's bones, it's feathers, and other kind of different talismans. Now, similar to a tarot deck, these pieces have archetypal meanings and what we call medicine stories, stories of healing. So my basket holds like what you begin with as an initiated diviner are about 25 universal pieces that every diviner has. Those are the kind of like major arcana. Now, each one of these pieces has a particular meaning. Like one, for instance, represents spiritual filth. One represents like the grandmothers, like the feminine energy, healing.
And when you say one, do you mean like a rock, a
Exactly.
feather?
Yes.
Okay.
So each piece has this like meaning, this story of healing that has been passed down for like thousands of years. So it is deeply embedded in like the ancient wisdom of the motherland. So I just think that is so powerful. Now,
And this is the ancient wisdom of the West African tradition.
yes.
And just to ground it for people, that would be the same way that in the Native American medicine wheel, for example, looking at the different natural elements that exist within the medicine wheel, the mountains, for example, represent XYZ. And that was the
Yes.
story of the lineage of that medicine system that was always told. So this is in the context of the
Yes.
West African medicine system.
Exactly.
Okay. And I just think it's important for people to understand that because
Mhm.
it's almost like thinking of it in the context of like religion, right? Stories, rituals are
Mhm.
part of religion. And I want to
Mhm.
ask you if this is a religion, but I almost think of it as in Catholicism, you do a ritual of praying to St. Anthony when you lose your keys, right?
Mhm.
And so that was passed down and taught, just like perhaps these are passed down and taught.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes. I would say this is more of it is a cultural tradition, but it is also, it's an animist practice. And animism is one of the earliest life ways of the ancient people. And what's cool is that literally all over the world, animism was practiced by many, many, many indigenous cultures. And simply what it means is that they recognized the living world as living, that mountains had intelligence, that water had intelligence, that the earth had intelligence, right? So like a lot of plant medicine lineages, they believe that, right? They believe that ayahuasca has its own, right? Like its own spirit that comes through and helps people navigate their healing.
It's even the way that we in the West have remnants of this, where we believe that washing your, well, maybe this is more me, but we believe that taking a bath clears our energy, or putting salt in our bath. And we don't know where we heard that from. We just know that we heard that.
Yes.
So this is an example of animism, the fact that water would have some sort of healing property / living exerted effect on us, a relationship with us.
Yes, exactly. And that is actually the property of water in this tradition, is to bring healing. So when you sit with me, what I do is basically I have these pieces, I have this stick, and this stick is actually like the Morse code. You know, it gives me yes or no answers from the beings that I work with, from your ancestors. So essentially, when I tap into this energetic field of these beings, they've heard the questions that you've put into the quarter. That is like the telephone that you've used to speak to your ancestors.
And just to walk us back, what do you ask folks to do with the quarter and et cetera before a session?
I ask them to speak their prayers or their questions out loud into a quarter where I can't hear them. So I have no idea what someone has come to me about. Literally, when you sat down in front of me, I was like, cool, we'll see what happens. No clue. And that removes human bias. It means that I can't say like, oh, Liv is here because she wants to talk about this thing that happened with like her family. No clue. So it's beautiful because what comes through then is purely of the spirits, of the beings that want to speak. And as you can attest, right, it will answer people's questions, sometimes literally in the order that they've asked them. And it's wild what comes through because I'm like channeling, right? So I'm getting these messages and sometimes I'm like, ooh, do I really want to speak to these things, right? Like some of the bigger questions of like sex, death, marriage, pregnancy, you know? But that's my role, is to say what I hear. And I'll say these things. I'll be like, hey, this is what is coming through. And people's jaws will drop. They're like, how did you know that? Like, I'll give you an example. I was sitting with a woman 2 days ago. And one of the things that her grandmother said at the end, they were like, you need to learn our song. And right? And she just looks at me and she's like, oh my God, I've been really wanting to sing more. And I was like, oh yeah, well, your ancestors are asking you to do that because that is a way that you can reconnect with the medicine of your people. And we just looked at each other, you know? So like things will come through that I'm like, I literally have no clue what this is connected to, but it's connected to something that is happening in their life, in their world. So that's a really beautiful piece, right? Is receiving these powerful messages. But the other part that you don't get in other forms of divination is the ritual. And the ritual, what I want to say about ritual is that ritual brings us into alignment, body, mind, and spirit. And if we are not in alignment, I view a ritual as literally like a lock and a key, right? Or a key and a lock. So you need to kind of dial and tune all these parts of you to literally face the same direction. And when that happens, a channel opens and energy moves through. And that's when you experience healing. I'm
thinking about like Dragon Ball Z being activated,
yes.
And then like the light
literally
can come through, whatever. Yes. That's such a good way to put alignment. Because I was going to ask you what you define alignment or attunement as in our human experience. So I think a lot of us are trying to, quote, get in alignment or do this breath work or morning routine to get in alignment. And it almost feels to me like ritual is a way to get there. And people listening at home, if this feels a little abstract for you, you can even think about it as your morning skincare ritual. Just the time that you take to slow down, to be with yourself, connect with yourself, and touch yourself, doing those steps can bring you into further alignment because you are becoming more present. So these rituals are sort of, 10 steps deeper than your skincare routine.
Yes.
To bring you into alignment as well. So what are some examples of what these rituals can look like? And how do you know what rituals to assign people?
So first of all, there is no, like there's a few kind of traditional rituals, but for the most part, what comes through is unique to you. So I receive them through the beings themselves. And these rituals are always meant to, exactly what you said, bring you into alignment with yourself and then alignment with your external environment. And before I answer your question, what I want to say is that healing is harmonization, right? When we can actually harmonize ourselves back into equilibrium, into wholeness, right? Things naturally happen. Answers naturally bubble up. But we get discombobulated, we get disassociated. And so what happens is when we're in this state where like literally our head is over here, our heart is over here, right? Our spirit is like wandering the ethers. We are not like coherent. When we ground, for instance, we're actually helping clear our channel. So a lot of us, we know this, we're constantly distracted. We're constantly bombarded with information My teacher talks about this all the time. He's like, we live in a loud, bombastic, profane world, right? Just think about how many notifications are going off, how easy it is to kind of get lost in all of these opinions and ideas of who you need to be, what you need to do. Like, so it's not unusual that most of us have trouble hearing our inner voice. So when we can actually clear our own channel, we all have a channel, we can hear our spirit speak. We can even hear our ancestors speak if we know what to listen for. And like, okay, a lot of people are like, what do you mean the earth is going to like talk to me?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's like, haven't you felt connection with nature?
Yeah.
Right? Like that tree that you go sit under that helps you feel peaceful when you're sad. Right? Like we forget about our connection with these things that feeds us.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we actually go out and connect consciously, we are increasing that like sense of attunement, that alignment that just again helps us clear out the noise and tap into what's real.
So that we can hear the answers to those questions that we're so confused about.
Yes.
Wow, the rituals are just bringing you back to yourself.
Boom.
And the elements that one is assigned to go visit through the rituals are what bring us there and help to clear that channel.
Yes.
Okay, so let's take it to specifics now.
Beautiful.
You had given me, and I think this is it's good for people to hear my experience. You had given me a slew of different rituals, one of them being that I needed to go to a mountain and I needed to mix up the dirt of that mountain with milk and other substances, and I needed to basically paint a face mask with that dirt. And then I had to wash it off and I had to get ready to reveal my new face to the world. So again, imagine me thinking I'm signing up for a psychic reading. That's going to be like, your grandmother says everything's going to be okay. And then you're like, go and get some mud on your face and tell the mountain that you, like whatever, like talk to the mountain. And interestingly, at that time, which I'm sure you could feel through the rituals that were coming through you, that my question was like, what am I actually supposed to be doing in my career? I'm feeling disconnected. I'm feeling lost. I'm feeling like I'm not being fully of my purpose. And I feel like I'm not showing up as who I really am. And it's affecting my soul.
Yeah.
And that's specific to me because I'm a public figure. So I often grapple with that. I'm often like, who am I really showing up as? Is this the real me? Is this helping people? Is this just for my ego? Like, what am I doing here? Do I want to be a public figure forever? What face am I presenting? Yeah. So obviously you didn't know that I asked that question. And yet this ritual came through for me to go to the mountain and get ready to reveal my new face to the world, where I've told people that I'm changing the way I use social media. I'm not being like an influencer, quote unquote, anymore, but instead I'm using my platform more for the podcast to platform folks that I think they should work with. So it's like 3 years later, I got the result of that ritual. Yeah. And yet perhaps there was just something in the mountain that I needed through that visit that would start to help that guidance trickle into my psyche.
Yes. So let's talk about some of the ingredients that were present in your ritual. The mountain. So think about stones. Stones are the compression of history. So in this lineage, the mountain is the elder. It is the keeper of time. It holds all stories of time. So we know that from like a scientific geological perspective, right? That's a fact. Fossils. But from a spiritual perspective, we go to the mountain when we are like stepping into our next chapter, which is what you were doing. And so we must tell the mountain, like, either it's time for me to complete this chapter or it's time for me to open the door. Like it can go a lot of ways. So you did that. Now dirt is a powerful, like kind of like a clay bath, right? It's it purifies, but it also kind of like strips away impurities. And to some extent, what you were grappling with is like kind of the false face.
Yes. The impure parts of how I was showing up.
Yes.
For ego.
Yes. And milk is, so both water and milk are healing essences, but milk it carries like the quality of breast milk, right? It's enlivening, it's soothing, it's nourishing, it's like even more healing. And what that means is like sometimes we need that milk to kind of soften and soothe the parts of us that might be reaching, right, for that false face. It's not bad or wrong, but there was a part of you that needed that. Yeah. And now you went to the mountain to be like, listen up, boss. Like, I'm ready to reveal myself, my true self. And you did. Now, some people might be like, well, 3 years, I don't have that kind of time.
Well, because you can't do it overnight.
No.
If the girl back then 3 years ago turned around that next day and was like, hey, social media, I'm done. My business wouldn't have been okay. I didn't put any processes in place for me to step back. I actually needed to start a cascade in my life of things that could set me up to be able to do that now.
Yes. Okay. I love that. Because so what we were talking about right before this, one of the most potent things my teacher ever told me, because I'm an impatient person, wish I wasn't, but I'm like instant, right? Like I did it. Where's the results? And I think we live in that culture. A lot of us are like, we are just so used to moving so quickly. But guess what, y'all? Nature doesn't move like that. So I was in a tizzy one time because something was not happening at my timeline. And my teacher looked at me and he was just like, when the conditions are right, time begins. Now let's talk about time. There's what we call chronological time, government time, right? You and I met here at 1 p.m. today. That's an agreed upon time that helps us be in the same place at the same time. Okay. But that's not how time actually works. And that's not how transformation actually works. We can't say, okay, I'm going to be like true leave by like 1 p.m. Friday. Okay, that'd be nice, but no. Instead, there's Kairos time, which is deep time. And deep time is right time, right place, right preparation. When the conditions are right, then time begins. So what you needed to do, and here's the lesson I took away, when we aren't moving, when it feels like life isn't moving fast enough for us or like on our timeline, it's not because you're bad. It's not because you did something wrong. It's not because you don't deserve what you want. It's that you need to get more ready. And you had to get ready, right? It wasn't just the intention. It was like, and I think that's like where manifestation falls short a lot of the time, is like, you need to get ready to hold that new life. So you had to put those systems in place. You had to do the deep work of what it actually means to not just say, I'm going to show up different, but to embody that.
I had to get spiritually ready to say I'm going to show up different and be okay with people being pissed about it.
Boom.
I would not have been okay. I was such a codependent people pleaser, which I am always going to be working on my codependency. It is my gift and my curse. But I was so deep into my codependence at that point that people on the internet had much more of an effect on me than what is normal and healthy as a human who has my own volition in life and boundaries to set. So it's just I wouldn't have been emotionally, spiritually, foundationally, systematically ready for such a change at the time. And yet there was a part of me that needed to go to that mountain and tell the mountain I was ready for that change so that I could start to at least to have the consciousness to take the steps.
Yes, exactly. And that's the thing, right? Like, again, this is a way opening medicine. Nothing is going to work our miracle for us. We work our miracles. And so what you did there is you literally, and again, so many people are like, when they first hear about the rituals, they're like, really though? Like, what's this going to do for me to like smear mud on my face? You would be surprised because these rituals trigger something on a primordial level that gets our consciousness in the right state to begin the transformation that needs to happen.
I love that. I always want to bring it back for people to these tangible, analogous examples. Is that the right word? And it feels like when you're setting the table for dinner, right? You are putting the runner on the table. You're setting the plates. You're putting out the decor, the flowers, the candles. You're lighting the candles. You're turning a little jazz music on. And then you can have people come and join you at that table, and they can be in a place nervous system wise, environment wise, where they can accept that meal and have a deeper level of digestion and receiving of that meal. So there are so
Yes.
many ways that we already use rituals to prepare us to receive or do something. This is just a more ancient form of it that's a bit more abstract to us because we've gotten so far away from these elemental beings.
Yes. And here's the thing that I always come back to, because, you know, I tell everyone that sits with me, I'm like, these messages, oftentimes people are like, wow, this message is spot on. It hit home. I'm like, that's great. But do not forget about these rituals, because that is the embodiment of the message, right? Like, we get bombarded with messages all the time, but how many times do we actually do the difficult, hard work of really embodying the change that needs to happen? And we all know, like, it's a pain in the butt. It's the hardest thing to change your mind. But when we get into that ritual space, it really does help move something inside of us. And I really believe, because it is primordial, like, our bodies remember, and it awakens these ancestral, like, gifts and memories and messages that were truly what I have seen happen in the ritual space. Miracles have happened. Things that I cannot describe through logic or rationality have happened. And it has blown my mind time and time again. This medicine completely changed my life within 2 years. Yeah.
I want you to give us some of those tangible examples.
Yes.
But before we even do that, I want you to walk it back and give us more of that dictionary of these elements. Because you mentioned the mountain, right? So you mentioned that the mountain holds the wisdom. And so we go there when we're at a crossroads, essentially, in life to close a chapter or start one. You mentioned that water is healing and purifying. You talked about milk. What are some of the elements and or walk us through some of the elements and ingredients that are in our natural world and have medicine for us?
Beautiful. I love this question, right? So I also want to say about the water too, just to expand it. There's different types of water. So if you were to go to a river, that has different healing properties than if you were to go to the ocean. Ocean is the deep subconscious. So you went to the ocean because you had to tap into a deeply subconscious place. Now, a river, running water. Right? So running water, same reason we would take a shower, to clean our energy as well as our body. Because running water is literally taking the filth away from you. Yes. I saw your whole, but like, woo. Right? In the same way that a bath is great. I love baths. But in the sense, you are kind of sitting in your own stew. But if you go into a river and you have some things to let go, better to go to a river than to a lake. Yeah. Right? It, like, you really start to realize that the whole world is designed to heal us and bring us back into balance.
This is such a side note, and I don't even know if I'll keep this in the actual podcast conversation, but Nick is like really like an Ecuadorian Puerto Rican shaman in his own right, I swear, because of his lineage. And I was, a few months back, it was like a rainy, stormy night. And I was clearing remnants of this relationship in my life, and I was burning a bunch of things in a fire. And he says, we have to do it tonight. And I was like, what do you mean? It's raining, the fire's not. He said, no, we have to do it tonight. He's like, I will make this fire for you. You're going to bring all the stuff you need to burn, and you're going to close this chapter. And I was like, okay. And he got really serious about it. And he goes, I can't even be near those like necklace, whatever I was burning. I was burning like cards and necklaces and whatever. He's like, I can't even be near those. I like feel them too much. And Nick is not like this. Like, Nick barely in his conscious mind believes in any of this stuff, even though he's like the most medicinal shamanistic human I've ever met. But he's like, I can't, my stomach's hurting, just bring it in a separate bag, like I can't touch it. And he's like facilitating, he's making this fire. I burn everything in the fire. He's like the fire keeper. And then as soon as I was done, we have this roaring like creek next to our house, and because it was raining so hard, the creek was flowing, it was rushing. And it's usually not that fast or that hard or whatever. And he's like, okay, now that we're done, I need you to go over to that creek and you need to wash your hands of this. And I was like, okay. Like, I've never seen my husband like this in my life. He's like leading this ritual for me. And it's freezing cold. Again, pouring rain. The fire's roaring. He's like, go wash your hands. And like holding the flashlight for me. And I'm like, okay. So it's almost like these natural things that we clearly know how to tap into when we get into that space.
Dude, I have chills hearing you talk about this, because also our hands, They are the extension of our will into the universe. Think about how you interact with the whole world through your hands mostly. So when we talk about washing our hands, we forget that like our hands hold the energy of everything we've interacted with that day.
Wow.
Yes. So Nick, bravo, my friend. That is some intuitive medicinal wisdom that was coming through him.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Okay, so
Okay.
I'm so sorry that I took us off tangent,
no, I'm
but
glad you said that.
let's take it back to you were explaining a river, a flowing river has a totally different energetic effect on clearing us than an ocean, which helps us to tap into our subconscious. What are these other elements?
Okay, so a lot of people talk about Mother Earth. Yes, but there is a Father Earth. And hello, y'all. Like, this is a much more native conception of the primordial Earth being. Because here's the thing. Everything has a masculine and a feminine. So I love that in this lineage, they really recognize that. So Mother Earth is very like, it is home, it is grounding, it is rooting, right? It is like the matrix in which the seed blooms. So it has that kind of like chaotic, like feminine, like ferocity, like creatrix energy.
Wow.
And Father Earth complements it. The seed needs like order, essentially. So Father Earth comes in when we have planted something and now it needs the structure to guide it forward. Yeah.
How would Father Earth appear in a ritual? How would one interact with Father Earth in a ritual?
So when the Earth piece speaks, I check, I'm like, is this Mother Earth or is this Father Earth? Because it's a slightly different energy and they'll let me know. And that usually communicates that sort of like the energy itself, like Father Earth is the ordering structure. That's how I think of it, right? So once we plant the seed, we need to water it. It needs light. It needs ingredients that give it, again, a structure of growth. But Mother Earth, it's that like primordial essence that like is kind of wild. We can plant a seed. Sometimes it will bloom, sometimes not.
Yeah.
We don't know. So Earth energy in general is grounding. It is like, it always is going to call us home. It's going to root us somehow. So anything that if we need to come back to ourselves, if we want to give form to something, we're going to be working with Earth energy. Now, let's see who else.
Well, in a ritual, would that be like someone is being told to go and touch the ground as part of their ritual?
Oh my God, it could mean so many things. So I'll give you an example. When I was initiated in this medicine, my whole life fell apart. And that's because initiation is a form of spiritual dismemberment, right? You get moved around and put back together again. So I was going through a very like painful experience at the same time as I was going through an incredibly like illuminating, profound, spiritually and like powerful experience. So I had a lot of anger. I had a lot of grief. And it was right around the time that there was a lot of wildfires happening in California, which is where I lived at the time. And one of the rituals that came through, because when you have like really intense feelings, you need to move them. And sometimes you need to actually like give them back to the earth, right? Think about a compost pile. Think about how the earth works with the cycles of life and death. If you're done with something, you need to give it back. And the earth is going to take that energy and turn it back into new life. But if not, it's going to keep moving in you and creating sort of like kind of a negative thing, right? It's going to get turned back on you. So what I did at the time, the ritual that came through for me, for my beings, they were like, you need to go out to the forest, dig a hole, scream into it. Yeah, they were like, you need to give this anger back now. Because like, we get it, you're upset, but like, this is all for the greater good. And I had so much anger. I had to go out to that woods several times and it was wild. I'm out there and as I'm screaming into this hole, I start crying. I start like burping, like all of this energy is getting released. And afterwards, it was like a little burial. I was like, okay, thank you, Mama Earth, for like taking this back. Thank you for transforming this energy for me. So I don't need to hold it in my body. And I buried it, offered water, said some prayers over it. And girl, afterwards, I felt like new again. Like I was reborn. And I was like, okay, great. I can go forward with my life now.
I mean, how many of us are walking around with immense anger, immense grief, and nowhere to put it? And if we just reconnected with these ancient rituals and storytelling and just tried things that feel maybe a little silly while you're doing them, but end up making you feel better, it's like, it's so tangible. It's so beautiful.
Yes. Tangible. I love that you said that, because oftentimes, like, we need to give form to the like unnameable, the things that we feel that we're like, how do I work with this difficult feeling in me? And it's like, baby, go try laying on the earth. Go let the earth receive all of this intensity, this energy that is actually too much for your system to hold right now. And believe me, it works. That's why we ground with like our feet.
Yeah. No, I have like a secret Instagram, as if I need another Instagram account. I have a secret Instagram that my like intuitive told me to make. She was like, just literally no one's allowed to follow you. You don't follow anyone. You just kind of post as if nobody was watching. What would you actually post? And I'll just like shit post stupid things. And I have this one post where I'm like, oh, you're sad? Have you tried walking tall upon the earth? Like, and it's just so true. It's like, have you just tried like just taking your shoes off and just realizing you're one with the earth? Like, just try it. So yes, it's like
beautiful.
The simplest things sometimes. And it's so, these rituals are accessible to people. You are going out working with what's available to you. They are not expensive. You know, that is what I want to do with the season, is like give people these tools. So thank you so much for bringing this to us.
Oh, my pleasure, my honor.
Whew. So we're going to continue walking through the elements. Honey is another one that you gave me.
Oh my gosh. Let's talk about honey. So I love this. My teacher said to me, honey is a potentiator. So there's amplification and there's potentiation, which slight difference, very similar. Now, that takes the bee 10,000 trips to the flower to make a single drop of honey. Think about the power and energy that lives in that drop of honey. It's almost like a nuclear bomb of goodness. That's what potentiation is. The explosive power of something that holds this energy. And when you work with honey, you are working with that energy, this like quantum energy of nourishment that is getting injected into your life or whatever you're directing it towards. Now, I'll give people a really fun little ritual. It's called a honey beacon. So for anyone out there who's looking for a new home, try this. You take a little dish, like literally like a tiny little bowl, and put a spoonful of honey. You don't need a lot. Let's not be greedy. Now, you are going to speak into that honey, not just what you want in a home, right? I want 3 bedrooms. I want 2 bathrooms. Great. Love that. Name it. You're going to also speak to the like activities and energy that you want your home to hold, right? So like when I was looking for my new home, I was like, I want to have these beautiful dinner parties with friends where we laugh. I want to have a beautiful space where I can host like medicine with like for clients, for my friends. I want it to be in nature so I can just walk outside and like touch the earth. I want to have like a beautiful bedroom where I can like make love with like beautiful men. Oh my God. My home it feels like my cathedral. Wow. Everything that I've asked for has happened inside of that home. Because here's the thing, you are not just calling in a structure that's dead. You are literally calling in the spirit of the house that wants to hold these things. And you are then becoming an energetic match for that home spirit.
So you're putting the honey in the bowl, you're speaking to it, and you're telling it not just the material wants, but the soulful how I want it to feel.
Yeah.
And what I want to do in this home. And then are we just putting the bowl on an altar? Or are we just...
Yes.
Okay.
So you're leaving that bowl, like I've put it in the kitchen, somewhere where you're going to see it. You don't need to do much to it after that. You just put it out and you're like, let the honey do its work. Of course, you still need to like go on Craigslist or wherever you find your house. But each time I've done this, it's wild. Like I have Craigslist magic because of this. And I have found the most beautiful homes. And it's never like a Zillow ad, right? It's literally like a janky Craigslist ad with 3 blurry pictures that don't show you anything. And like, you know, just calls, no text, Dave. And then I was like, all right, I have a good feeling about this place. I don't know why. And I remember going and being like, this is the exact home I imagined. And everything, because I'm an entrepreneur, right? So I don't always have like the like regular paychecks that certain landlords are looking for. The last 2 homes I found, it's literally been like a handshake.
Dave did not care.
Dave
was chill.
Dave was like, I've never done a lease. Do you need a lease? I trust you. Dave was old school.
Oh my God.
Literally, when we got on the phone to talk about this house, he talks about how he had seen a fox that day. We end up in this 30-minute long conversation about our spirit guides.
I'm crying as if there could be a more perfect house for you.
Right?
Wow.
He ended up like, bless Dave. Dave literally like just scooped me up and literally became like a father figure to me for like a year. Just the most wonderful man and being. And like, again, through this janky Craigslist ad that I never would have answered if I was looking for like, if I was operating in the way that most people would operate in the housing market.
And we're crediting the honey, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we are.
Obsessed. Okay. Some of the other elements that came up in my rituals are ones that you wouldn't quite expect, because we're talking through the ocean, the, honey, milk, things that you can have access to / purchase that are consumable or, parts of the earth that are easily accessible.
Mm-hmm.
One of the rituals you gave me was about lightning.
Oof. Love
so
lightning.
I think the god of lightning had something to say to me about standing in integrity once I had lightning realizations and not going back on the truth I had seen.
Mm-hmm.
So what is lightning as an element, and how would someone be prescribed a ritual that involves lightning?
Okay. You just brought up one of my favorite forms of medicine, which is lightning medicine. You know how in like Harry Potter, like Voldemort, like they don't say the name of Voldemort because it's so powerful.
Yeah.
Lightning medicine is like that. It is so powerful that we won't talk about its real name in the lineage. So lightning is a medicine of integrity. And that's essentially, as my teacher once told me, you will get spanked if you are not walking in your integrity. Big time, right? Like you will experience real consequences when you get out of like your right walk. Now, lightning is like, think about a lightning strike, right? It's boom. When something, okay, so we got to think about like the larger ecosystem in which lightning is happening. Lightning actually neutralizes. Yeah. So believe me, I'm not like a weather person.
You're not a meteorologist.
Yeah, exactly. So
however,
disclaimer. High level, lightning is going to try and harmonize something that is out of harmony. Right? So if you're in disharmony with yourself.
Is it like there's built up static electricity in the environment so the lightning comes down?
Yes.
Okay.
So like, let's imagine that there's some sort of buildup of electricity in your world because you are not totally in your truth. Right?
It's creating friction.
Yes.
The more you're trying to force a life that's not truthful to you and do things that are not good for your soul, it's going to create some friction.
Yep.
Friction equals electricity. I'm
Boom.
Also not a physicist, but that's what I'm going to say for today.
Yes.
Okay.
So lightning course corrects. It is a medicine of correction. Now, I will say I had such an intense initiation with it this summer. I was literally walking in the woods by my house. I live in Maryland, Southern Maryland, so like we get a lot of storms. And there was thunder. It was not yet raining, and I didn't think there was lightning. I was walking in the woods behind my house with my dog, just kind of be like, girl, like go pee-pee before the storm hits, because she doesn't like walking in the rain. A bolt of lightning struck the earth. I'm not kidding you, like 10 feet from me.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What did you do?
First of all, it was one of the most surreal, electrifying, sorry for the pun, experiences of my whole life. Like, imagine a plane crashing in front of you. It was that amount of energy. I was blinded for like a full 30 seconds. The sonic boom of it sent me and my dog 5 feet in the air. Yeah. And when I landed and realized I'm alive, we booked it out of there. And I'm like in at this point it starts raining, right? I'm in my Crocs. I'm slipping and sliding through the woods. Girl, my heart was in my throat. I have never felt energy like that in my life.
So in the context of the lineage, was that lightning coming to you because you were acting out of integrity?
So how I read it, because right around that time, I was launching a new program called Initiation. Yeah.
Oh.
And so I was literally in the final days of like talking about this program, talking about and a lot of my talking points were really about integrity, like how to walk with integrity when you have big medicine to give. And so much of my work outside of divination is working with other healers and facilitators and guides who are not initiated in a lineage, but they need these tools so they can be in integrity. Because our culture does not teach people how to literally hold themselves, how to be ethical, like healers.
Yeah.
A lot of us have to figure it out on our own. So this whole launch was talking about how to literally be in integrity, how to walk tall on the earth, carrying your medicine. So I went to my teacher after that because I was like, oh my God, Mark, like this is what happened. Usually when you get spoken to, when you get a message like that, it does usually mean something is up. So I went to him and I was like, Mark, oh my God. He's like, let me look into this girl.
Let me just Facebook the gods.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing. Not many people carry this medicine because it is so potent. My whole life has been a teaching about this medicine. I have gotten spanked so many times. It has been like a joke of my life at this point. And so that was actually an initiatory experience. And he came back and he's like, all right, he knows I carry lightning medicine. It got called out in my very first div with him.
You called it out for me in my very first divination. Now I'm a little scared. Now I'm a little, what do I gotta change?
Yeah, it's like with big power comes big responsibility.
Yeah.
And so that medicine was basically alerting me like, we see you. And there's like maybe 2 other people in my medicine tribe that have this. And there is not a lot known about carrying it as an official medicine, getting initiated into that particular medicine. So that's essentially what the beings were saying. They were like, we see you. We call you out. Like, good job. Now you are going to walk even more in integrity. Yeah. Like so much has happened as a result.
So I like how you just spoke about healers being in integrity and sometimes that not coming naturally to them, especially in the West, because they're not part of a lineage, don't have elders / guidelines explaining to them how to work with folks like truly ethically. There's a lot of that I see in like the coaching space. And yeah, there's a lot of things wrong with how we coach, sell, market, period, in everything, even in my fields. And that's something that I'm also switching with, even the way I work with herbalism. I'm like, I want to work with one plant at a time versus just doing these like blends that are meant to get people results in their labs. Yes, herbs can do that, but like honoring the medicine, honoring the herbs is working with it in a very different relationship than like an herbal supplement. Again, both have their place, but what's the truest form? I want to walk back to that. So that damn lightning's working through me. So you're talking about the ethics that come with being in a lineage, and this medicine system and the rituals that are taught to you by your elders within this lineage. I want to ask you, how did you become initiated in this lineage? Because it's a West African medicine. From what I'm seeing, you're not West African. So I want to talk about that because it's same way that people go to acupuncture school to study acupuncture if they're not Chinese. This is a kind of a similar thing, I'm thinking.
Yeah, so this is a closed practice lineage. So what that means, there's traditions that are open. So like the yogic traditions, and like, I'm sorry if I'm kind of generalizing yoga, because I know there's many different lineages within that. That's an open practice. So anyone can come in, learn Ashtanga, teach it, right? You still have to go to yoga school. You still have to like get the certification, but there's no real restrictions around like you can be a white person, a black person, Indian person, etc. Closed practices are different. So a lot of Native American traditions are closed practices. A lot of like hoodoo, I think, is one. Voodoo is another closed practice. I am not the source or the expert on all of the closed practices, but what it essentially means for this lineage is that you cannot come into it unless the beings choose you. Yeah. So let's talk about that, because what I love about this lineage, so when I started working with it, when I met my teacher, I was just in awe. I was like, this is one of the most powerful practices I've ever engaged in. Like I said, it changed my whole life in 2 years.
How did you meet your teacher?
I met my teacher. Oh my gosh. I was on a personal pilgrimage. Just like I had left my whole life in Los Angeles. I knew something was calling me. And I had met this person who became my lover. Bless him, because I call him the bridge to this medicine. I moved up to Northern California to be with him. We had only been dating for like a month. But I was just like, I'm going to trust this. One of the first things he brings me to when I get up to Oakland was this initiation party for his friend who is a diviner. And that's when I first encountered the medicine, got these chills. I was like, what is this talking stick? I need to know more. I go downstairs to sit in this group of people, and there was this man. And I just was like, this guy, love him. I had no idea who he was. His name's Mark Boakley. He would become my teacher. I sat down next to him, and I just felt, I was like, this man is going to play a role in my life.
You just know.
I just knew.
Yeah, you just know with people. You can feel it. It's like lightning strikes you. Yeah.
Yes. And then my partner at the time, Tyler, he was like, you need to go get a div from Mark. And I was like, oh, yes. I went and got a divination from Mark probably like 2 weeks later. And in that divination, he read me for filth. He told me things about myself that I was like, oh my gosh, that makes so many things in my life make sense now. Like this lightning medicine, right? I was just like, I walked out of there like, oh my God, I feel so seen.
Yeah.
Right? All of this to say, I just felt resonance with the medicine. I was like, I just want to be close to it because it speaks to my soul in a way that nothing I had ever done before. But throughout, as I'm working with my teacher and these beings are giving me rituals through him, they're preparing me. So there's different steps that kind of signal that you are on the path. You get a bracelet, you get a bell, you make certain shrines because the beings are like, we want a relationship with you. And so, you know, like not everyone chooses to come into this medicine. But at one point, it was right around the solstice. I believe in 2020, it was that solstice. I get this ritual where I literally have to go out into the woods at night and spend the night alone without any tent. I have to literally sleep in the woods, totally exposed by myself. Yeah, like, and one of my greatest fears is literally the dark woods at night. Dude, I end up sleeping out in the woods, this ancient redwoods, where later I find out there was like a literal mountain lion hanging out. Yeah. So like I'm basically given all of these steps to just like get ready, right?
Yeah.
Get right. And then it was like 2 months later, I go sit with my teacher again, and he was like, holds up a wedding ring. And that was one of the pieces that was speaking. And he was like, they want you. Do you want this? And I just about like lost my mind. I was like, wait, they're asking me if I want to become a diviner. And he was like, yes. And so here's the thing. When the beings decide that you are someone they want to speak through, then you have to go get a blind confirmation. Yeah, which means you go to another diviner who has no idea that you've been working with this medicine for like 2+ years. Play dumb. I've never seen this medicine before. What is this? So I love it because it really kind of combines this like trickster medicine of like, okay, ooh, what's this? So you go to this person who's also like connected with, you know, with this teacher, has no idea who you are, that you've been doing this medicine. And that way it eliminates human bias. And if the beings speak through that person and say, we want her, because here's the thing, if you're new to this medicine, any diviner knows, if this is your first time sitting with with them, the beings are never going to be like, yeah, we want her.
Yeah.
She's the one.
Yeah.
Right? They'll be like, no, you have to have all these steps to
The
prepare
initiation.
you. Exactly. So when that happens, it's like the trick is revealed. And that diviner would say, you said you've never worked with this medicine before. So somehow the beings need to confirm through this like blind confirmation, we want her.
And did that happen?
Yes.
You went to some random guy?
Yep. I went to, her name is Denise Rose Battle.
Okay.
She is a badass. And I will never forget because I was so nervous. And I was like, oh my God, am I really chosen? Do I really get this honor, this privilege? And I should say that like it made So she is a Black woman, and she, along with my teacher, were initiated in Africa with the elders. And so for her, I remember, oh my God, she was like, you carry this medicine. She was like, you are being called into this medicine. She's like, this wild medicine, she's like, has run in your family in a, like, here's the thing. The wild medicine itself is not just limited to one lineage.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's the indigeneity of my ancestors, my wild people. Like, I have Viking blood.
Yeah. I was just thinking, like, for whatever reason, your ancestors were just connected to nature and the elements in a way where they revered it. And so that just came through in you, which is why you would be suited to someone who can practice this, because to practice it, you must revere and respect it.
Yes. And I want to also speak to the fact that, like, so Malidoma Somé, who is the man that brought this medicine to the West from Africa, his name means he who befriends the stranger. And his life, there was a prophecy writ at his birth about him that was basically like, this man is supposed to leave the village and go out into the world and share this medicine with it. And he did that.
A prophecy written about him at birth. Did elders in his community write this prophecy?
It was foretold by them through the medicine, through a divination.
Wow.
So the beings were like, this man is going to do something.
Yeah, I guess back in the day when we lived in more tribal communities, there were these elders and these people who, like, gave you a name, gave you a story, gave you like a prophecy through their system of like, this is what this child shall become. Like, we used to have that.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. So he brought this medicine to the West. Now there are practitioners of this closed lineage in the West.
Yes.
If you so happen to, upon your path, divinely stumble upon one of those people, resonate and know the medicine, feel a call to them, you had slowly worked with them, essentially, and been gradually invited as you continue to show respect for it. And then ultimately, through that final confirmation, you were invited in formally.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
So there are practitioners from many different nationalities, ethnicities. So again, you could work with this medicine for your entire life. You could love it. You could resonate with it. And there's a chance you would not be invited in. There's many people who that's true for.
But even if you aren't invited in as a carrier or practitioner of this medicine, someone who can perform divinations, anybody can go to a divination practitioner and receive a reading from you, because it's still medicine for the people at large.
Yes. And what I want to say, because I think it's really essential to recognize that, like, you know, we have a lot of ideas about lineage and cultural appropriation. And this is not to diminish or demean that, but when we actually look at the perspective of the medicine, these beings have an agenda too. And that agenda, I believe, as a white person working within this lineage, is to help repair the broken lineages of white people. Because our disconnect from the earth,
from our culture, like any semblance of culture.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really bad.
So I think this medicine, it is part of this greater harmonization that's happening in our world. And I have the blessing and permission of the elders in Africa, and they know, like, there is no one who is a gatekeeper of this medicine except for the beings. And so that's something that I take very seriously. Like, if people want to work with a diviner of color, I will refer them, no problem.
Yeah.
And I do see that my role is to help reconnect a lot of people, not just white people, but anyone whose lineage has been disconnected, right? That's a lot of us.
Can you give us some more tangible, concrete examples of rituals that have come through you for different folks so that people can get an idea?
Oh gosh, yes. All right. So, okay, I'll give an example of a recent one. So a woman that I spoke with the other day, she is completing a chapter in her life and really like entering. It was interesting because she is a doctor, right? Like a Western medical doctor. But she was saying that she's like, I felt really disconnected from the healer archetype, right? Because you think about Western medicine and it's like very detached, right? So she was letting go of that career. And she's like, I'm hoping that this really opens me up to like a healing path that feels more intimately connected. in whatever way that wants to arrive. And so one of the things that we were talking about in that divination was just like how to reconnect with her ancestral lineage. And she has a strong connection. Her ancestors were from Wales in particular. And so we were talking a lot about that. Like, and one thing the being said that I thought was so beautiful is they were like, all medicine runs through the earth. So like our connection with the earth, all of our ancestors were indigenous at some point. All of them had that connection. So when we reconnect with the earth, we're actually kind of triggering these ancestral memories of what it was like to work with nature, with plants. And so like one of the things that came forward, as I mentioned earlier, was they really wanted her to connect with her song, because that was something that is a technology of her ancestors singing. And so I was like, okay, they really want you to go out and start singing. So the ritual was very like simple in the sense it was like sing. And one thing that they shared, and this is so wild, they showed me this image of a dry riverbed. And I told her, I was like, as you connect with your song, it's like there's this dam upriver that all of this water is being held back, which is literally the ancestral energy. And as you sing, you're literally like tick, 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 like tapping away at this dam to create a hole where this water wants to come through and just run through your life, which is the energy of these ancestors. Girl, I kid you not. She looks at me and she's like, okay, so she's like, I did this shamanic journey to meet my ancestors a couple months ago. And they literally said something about a dam. And she's like, they call me the flood bringer. I got chills. Like I had like my whole body was goosebumps. And I was like, then you need to sing, because the more you sing, the more you're opening up this dam in your body and your being, and you're letting them, like songs are just going to start coming out of you that aren't yours, they're theirs. So I found that so beautiful and simple, because sometimes people are surprised by how simple the rituals can be. Another ritual that I gave this past summer, which I just, oh my goodness, what a profound ritual. So I have a friend that over the past year had, I think, 7 different deaths in her life. Her lover, good friends, her grandmother, just like it was a very difficult passage for her. And she came to me on her birthday last year. At the tail end of these deaths, she was also grieving. It was right around the time that one of her best friends had died the year before. Yeah, like not easy. She had been going through it. And one of the things that came up was that she carries death medicine, right?
What does that mean?
Yeah, so death medicine is essentially anyone who is able to walk with others through like the passage of death. So that could be like a death doula. Yeah, it is a very big, potent medicine, and not a lot of, everyone thinks it's like really creepy and like scary, but it's not. It's incredibly profound, because think of what happens when you die. Like to be with people in that place is one of the most sacred acts that you could really be present for. And one of the rituals that came through for her, it makes me emotional to talk about. She was asked to basically reflect on each of these deaths that had happened and to identify an ingredient that each person needs in the afterlife. Something that could kind of help, I don't want to say make right, but like, you know, bring them something, give them something to kind of complete this cycle that they had been through. So she was to find these different ingredients, and then she was to get into a boat by herself and row out to the middle of a lake and offer these ingredients one by one for each person to literally like do the burial, right? Do the death work. And then here's the key thing. The beings were like, this is your initiation. And if you choose to accept this role as someone who is here to help like walk with others through their death passage, you will then jump into the lake and baptize yourself. And she did it. And she shared with me the things that she realized each person needed in the afterlife. Oh, girl, I cried. It was like...
What's an example of something?
So one of the people that passed that we all knew, he was a lover of hers. His name is Andrew. And he's someone that had such big light, so much light, but also carried a lot of darkness and heaviness, and ended up overdosing. Yeah. And so the gift that she gave Andrew in the afterlife was a feather, some lightness to really like, because he was an earth angel.
Yeah.
He was someone, I remember seeing him for the first time and being like, I just want to be in this person's orbit because he is radiant. And as we know, a lot of people who struggle with addiction.
Yeah, of course. The best folks, really the best humans.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are really working through some really dark, heavy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And she recognized that Andrew needed that. He needed some lightness to carry with him into the afterlife.
Wow. So beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Well, thanks for sharing those examples of some tangible rituals to give people an idea of what comes through for them and how vastly different they could be. I was on a mountain with mud on my face, and she was on a lake reflecting on these loved ones that had passed, and like spending time with. It's very far reaching.
Yeah.
So you had shared a bit about this disconnection to nature and to lineage and to the elements that we have in the West. And you have you've shared with me how even though you're a psychedelic facilitator, you feel that people can reach that level of consciousness and experience that healing through nature alone. And I couldn't agree more. I think we can also do it through making art. But before we get into why that is, I would love for you to just kind of give us a little breakdown on what has kind of happened to our consciousness and to our ability to connect with one another and ourselves and our ancestors as we've gotten further away from nature and these inanimate elements around us.
Oh, I love that question. It's such a big one. One of the things that I love talking about is I truly believe that every answer we need is literally in our periphery, is somewhere being shown to us in nature or like in our surroundings. Now, I feel like we are, and I'll kind of come back to that. So we live in the West with this very egoic idea of human supremacy, right? Like, we're the answer. We're the ones. We're the top dog. We're the apex predator, and everything is beneath us, which is honestly such a not only is it a disconnect from the reality of life, but it does us a disservice because it basically means that we got to figure everything out. We have to have all the answers. And the reality is like when you disconnect from the web of life, you disconnect from all of the intelligence that lives within it. And then you put so much more pressure on yourself and you create solutions that are inherently out of balance and continue to exacerbate that disconnect, which creates the situation we're in now, right? Where we're like at the verge of climate catastrophe and we have no idea how to go about solving it.
We're like, why don't we genetically engineer more crops and put more pesticides in the soil? That'll get us out of it.
Exactly.
Because we're creating abstract, disconnected solutions that don't listen to what nature has to say to us. Nature's showing us, hey, why don't you just do this? And we're not looking in the periphery at what nature's saying.
Yep, exactly. And one of the core teachings that my beings give me, they love saying this, they're like, human supremacy is obsolete. There is no such thing as human supremacy. To think like that is to remove yourself from how deeply woven all of life is. And indigenous people, God bless them. We need them because they are still connected to life in that way. And so many of us in the West have this this egoic idea of like, oh, that's so primitive. Like they don't have iPhones. But guess what? They can they can hear animals in the jungle that we can't hear. They can talk to plants in ways that we can't.
How do you think herbalism started? It's like these folks did not have a lab to analyze the withanicides and ashwagandha, but somehow the plants talked to them and came in dreams and all of these things. And we developed the materia medica that's been passed down for centuries upon centuries.
Yes.
There's a way.
There is a way. One of my favorite books, the author is Diana Beresford Kroger, I think. She's an Irish writer. And she talks about, she is one of the last living people who received a folk education from an entire village. She was an orphan, an entire village in Ireland. And basically, like, this story is incredible. But what her whole point is like all of the medicine, answers, information we need is held in the living world, specifically trees, and all of the like pharmaceuticals. Those are analogous, right? Derivatives of what we can use nature for. And her whole thing is like, there are certain species that are extinct that have like cancer fighting ingredients that we can no longer use because we do not care to steward this ecosystem and care for these trees. And so like, it was kind of a wake-up call to read that because there is so much available for us in the natural world. Everything comes from the natural world. And when we treat it like garbage, we're actually like doing ourselves a disservice because we are missing out on the potential solutions that we need in the future.
I mean, you know, we're talking right now about nature in the context of using it, right? Of like using a tree to extract a chemical to fight cancer, or using XYZ. But what are some of the ways that the natural world benefits us just by us being in relationship with it and not having to even use it?
Yes. Oh, I love that. Thank you for that. So one of the, there's like a formal school of practice called biomimicry, which I think is so cool. And what it looks at, it has so many different applications, right? Where it looks at nature and it says, cool, what can we learn? So nature does not have monocultures. Monocultures are super toxic. So all of these huge cornfields where we're just stripping out all of the other like plants and animals that support a viable ecosystem, that's not working in the way nature works. So the Native Americans, they grew squash, bean, and corns together because all of those items like have the essential nutrients and like nitrogen fixing materials for all of them to thrive. So we can look at nature. To me, nature is the model for thriving life. And when we can actually like be in relationship with that, we can learn from that. We can design a world that actually amplifies what is right, what is in balance, versus a world that is trying to remove itself from that equation. Which is like, I'm always like, why are we trying to get to space? Like we're like literally living in our own litter box down here. Like, you really
I'm crying out. Why are we trying to get to space?
It's like we have soiled the closed loop ecosystem that we live inside. You really think Elon Musk is going to do us one better up there? Bro.
I'm dead. I love you. But it's so true. So you're kind of saying like modeling our life based on the analogies or like models that nature gives us, such as crops doing better together, people doing better together.
Boom.
Lightning happening when there's too much friction and electricity in the environment.
Yes.
When you're creating too much friction in your relationship, a lightning bolt's going to strike. When you're creating too much friction by doing things that aren't on your path, a lightning bolt's going to strike. It's like just constantly finding these parallels and these ways that you can philosophize and turn the observations from nature into lessons that apply to your life.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love how you summarize and like take it all and be like, boop, there it is.
Because it's just you're like the most genius abstract artist when you speak, and I'm like, I want the
Practical,
people at
tangible.
home to be like,
Boom,
let's
boom,
do
boom.
this. Okay, so why can nature be just as powerful as psychedelics that quite literally make us trip?
Nature is psychedelic. There's a meme that talks about like, hey y'all, have you ever thought about the fact that like when you read a book, you're literally reading a slice of tree and you hallucinate vividly for hours? Right? When you think about books in that way, you're like, oh, that is so psychedelic.
You do hallucinate. It's called imagination.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Wait, so when you were a kid playing in the forest with your friends and like pretending that, you know, these bamboo sticks were like your house and you were hallucinating, which was your imagination, which is what nature allowed.
Kind of, yes. Like, so I'll give you an example of something that I just find so trippy and no drugs were involved. So when I first came into this medicine, I do a lot of work in dreams. I'm a dream walker. So I often like, really?
Yes. No, like plants, this guy talks to me in my dreams all the time about plants. He's
oh
like,
my gosh.
this is what this family needs. This is what like he'll tell me to take flower essences. I've never seen his face, but he's there.
I love this. Obsessed. Yes.
Okay,
right?
so you're a dream walker. What does that mean?
So it usually, what it means is I tend to show up in other people's dreams and giving, like one time I showed up in like this glittery jumpsuit and announced to my friend that I was a legend. I was like, okay, gritty dream girl, like go off. But oftentimes it's like giving them a message for them to give back to me. Anyways, a lot of crazy stuff happens in dreams. Spirits visit me. I get messages. I get jewelry from beings. But here's the craziest thing that's ever happened in my dream world. So when I first came into this medicine, I had to do a bunch of divinations to basically like practice, right? So it was during COVID. We were still in quarantine. I was doing them all virtually. And I had one booked with a friend in the morning. That morning, I wake up and I throw up all this water. And I was like, what is this? I take a COVID test, negative. Take a pregnancy test, negative, right? I felt fine, could not explain it. I was like, this is so weird. I text her and I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I just threw up. So can we reschedule? And she was like, yeah, no problem. She's like, but first I had a dream about you. And I was like, oh, do tell. And she's like, okay, so in the dream, you and I meet by the ocean and you give me a divination. And afterwards, you walk into the ocean and disappear underneath the water.
Swallowed a little too much.
Right? I like have no way to explain this in real world like logic. I'm like,
so did you bring up dreams? Because the same way that a tree is part of nature, dreams are part of our nature?
Totally.
If trees are medicine, dreams are medicine.
Big time.
And we know trees are medicine.
Yes.
I would make pharmaceuticals from them.
Yeah. I would argue. Okay. So one of my favorite quotes is by Joseph Campbell. And he talks about, I'll butcher it a little bit, but it's basically like the whole point of life is to match our heartbeat to the beat of the world, to match our nature with nature.
To go at nature's pace. That's my goal forever.
Bravo. I love that.
Maybe not right this second while I'm editing 7 million podcasts, but the ultimate goal is to move at nature's pace. That's when I feel best, when I'm aligned.
Yep.
Yeah.
So when we can do that, when we can align ourselves with the heartbeat of the earth, I think we will experience medicine in so many different ways.
Yeah. What are some of the other tangible ways our listeners can start to notice nature speaking to them?
Oh my gosh, I love this. Okay, so for one, go out into nature. Go out, leave your phone at home. Go out into nature and I always like to recommend sit with a tree. Look for something that speaks to you, first and foremost, because that is a form of trying to get your attention. Take off your socks, touch the earth, sit with this tree, listen to it. Just try and stay out of busy mind of okay, after this, I'm going to go grocery shopping and blah, 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 and got to talk to this friend. Ask it a question, right? Always speak your questions out loud because the universe, nature, spirits can't hear your thoughts. We live in a free will universe, so you have to speak it out loud. Here's something I also like to invite you to do. Make an offering. You don't need to come with anything. A piece of hair or literally some spit is offering. So ask a question, make an offering, and be with the tree or with the stone or with the mountain, with the river, and just see what bubbles up in you. Because that connection, again, as we were talking about earlier, that connection with the earth is going to clear some energy and it will allow some things to move in you. And then you get to hear your own inner voice. So just practice that. Another thing I like to recommend is there is a form of journeying that is non-entheogenic, which means you don't need a sacrament. Shamanic journeying. People can reach out to me if they want some resources. I actually have some elemental meditations on Insight Timer.
Amazing. I'll put the links in the show notes too.
Perfect. Yes. So this is kind of like a shamanic journey, which is in essence, you use the power of your imagination and a trance state, which is enhanced by drumming, to go literally into another world and receive a message or a healing from a spirit guide. And what happens in these worlds is insane. I've literally been healed by a 1,000,000-year-old rat. I have died in a lion's arms. And I can't even tell you, it's I once talked to this way wild, like Chinese ascended master. But these are real places that you go. It's called shamanic journeying is a form of soul flight. And you're just doing this literally in your bedroom.
And it's done through meditation.
It's done through meditation.
Wow.
So that's a way of actually experiencing the psychedelia of your own imagination and a trance state in a way that can bring forward healing.
Those are such beautiful ways for us to start connecting with our own nature and with nature. And I'd also love to ask you, what are some easy, tangible ways that we can start working with our ancestors?
I love that. Okay, so the best thing to do is to form a relationship with them. Now, one of the best ways to do that is to create an altar. Okay, so my beings love to talk about word puns, and the word altar, it also means to alter something, to shift the fabric of reality. Yes, because love and devotion, it gathers energy in. So when you create an altar to anything, you are gathering energy towards that spot, and you are basically communicating to your ancestors like, y'all, this is our watering hole. Meet you here. Yeah. So best way to do this, you can have photos of your ancestors if you have some. If you don't, some people don't, that's cool. Anything that calls to you forward the energy of your ancestors.
You can paint a home right on a piece of paper, and you can just intention that is the home of your ancestors.
I love that. Make a little bowl of water, have a little white candle, and show up on a regular basis. Doesn't need to be every day. Bring them offerings, right? Like a ritual that does come through a lot for people to kind of open the way to connect with their ancestors is to make a meal of ancestral food, right? And then offer them you make a little plate for them, and you leave it outside and you say, ancestors, please eat. Like, feel my love, feel my care, come through this food. Let's eat now. I welcome you into my life. So you can make ancestor plates for any meal and leave it outside for 24 hours. Like, obviously don't leave, like if you have a dog, be mindful, but
can you just set a place at the table for an ancestor during a meal? Okay.
Totally. And then, bring them like flowers. Like, you will start to actually get messages. Like, my grandfathers love M&Ms. It's so cute. I also like leave them cigars. So
I should try leaving my ancestors some cigarettes. They'd love that.
Right? Like, you will kind of feel their joy of like, yes, girl, like bring me the tobacco.
Same.
So listen for those messages. Some ancestors will want you to sing to them. They want to hear your prayers out loud. Tell them what's happening in your life. Tell them what you want support with.
I love how you said that we live in a free will world. We have to actually ask our ancestors for help.
Yes.
Out loud.
Yes. Because otherwise they're just kind of hanging out about there being like, girl, like we could help you. Your ancestors are doing so much work on the other side, but you got to ask them to. So you could say like, hey, ancestors, like I'm starting this new podcast. Could you go out and talk to the ancestors of like Kat? Let them know like we're going to do this really amazing podcast together. And they will do that. Give them some offering and see what happens.
That's so beautiful. Creating an altar makes energy flow there, and your people just know, and you can talk there. We just don't talk enough out loud. We don't share enough about our lives or our wishes or this, or even think to say hello to all of the energy and beings and ancestors that could be around us.
Yeah.
Such a wasted opportunity.
I know, right? We forget that we have so much like support on the other side, and that's the beauty of this medicine is we can harness that. We can call that in. And let's do that, right? Because we have some big change that we need to make happen on this planet, and we need all the help we can get.
Amazing. Well, to just round this interview out, I would love to ask you, if someone does come to you for a divination and they get the rituals and they go out and they diligently do them all, what happens next? What are they supposed to do after the ritual is completed? How long can it take for the cascade to unfold from that shift? We shared a little bit about that before. It's been like 3 years for me that things have slowly unfolded, but like, how can one sort of expect it to eventually connect to real life happenings?
Well, I will say, first of all, it's different for every person. And it really depends on how willing you are to go there. Like, are you ready to give yourself over? Are you ready to surrender? Are you really ready to ask for help? And in your case, right? Like, are you really ready to make the change? Like, take the steps that are being asked for. So a lot of the times what I tell people is like, the ritual is the first step. And then you're going to start seeing more things come through that are inviting you deeper onto this path that you're on.
Opportunities that you should say yes to make that wish happen. Or
yeah. So like at the end of the day, you're the one still driving the car of your life.
Yeah.
But some people will see immediate results. I've had people reach back and they're like, holy crap, like next day something happened, 2 weeks. For other people, like a big shift like the one you made is going to take more time.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean give up because you don't see like shift right away. It means you have opened the way and you need to keep walking. So next steps are going to look very different. I'm always here if people come back and they're like in the same way that tarot, you're working with the energies of now. So I always tell people your rituals need to be done anywhere from like
very soon. I did mine very soon.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't just like sit on them. If you're going to do a divination, be serious about it and do your rituals in the next like 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I write that on my website. I'm like, if you don't do your rituals, it's considered disrespectful to the ancestors.
Agreed. Yeah.
Right? They're offering you advice. Take it. If you're not ready to do the work, don't come receive a divination.
Mm-hmm. And one of my rituals was the lightning god, where I had to go outside and put a rock somewhere when lightning was happening. And that week there was a lightning storm. Mm-hmm. So it's like they will create the conditions for you to do the rituals.
Yes.
Yeah. Who's like the ideal candidate for a divination? Like if someone's listening and it's like, is this right for me? Because my goal of the season, like I said, is to connect people with the folks that are meant to be their stewards of their next level. So if someone's listening, how do they know that this might be right for them?
So I love to say, like, if you are at a crossroads, right, of any kind, if you don't know what the next step looks like, if you want to connect with your ancestors, if you want to have more clarity around your purpose, if you feel stuck or blocked, these are all opportunities to come get a divination, right? Because I've had people come to me for all kinds of things. They need to change jobs. They want to get pregnant. They want to get married. The possibilities are endless. This is a very powerful medicine for a lot of different kinds of people. But generally, if you feel stuck and like you can't find a way forward, come to me.
I love it.
Yeah.
How can we find you? How can we work with you?
Thank you for asking. So you can find me and all my work under my website, which is wildalive.co, not com, C-O. Those links will be in the
show notes. Yeah, we'll link everything below.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So that's the best way to find me. You can also find me on Instagram. I don't obviously I have a link tree on there, but feel free to hit me up on there as well. But I will say, like, if you want to get a real taste of my offerings, go to my website. You can book with me directly from there.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Kat.
Thank you so much.
Wasn't that great?